Welcome back to WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We're on Radio Row, Super Bowl 54 coverage, all brought to you by our friends at Liberty Pure. I am drinking through all of Doug Workman's water here. You can find them at acleanwater.com, as well as our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast. I'll get some Western fries when I get back. Love following this guy on Twitter. We got to know him with the Pittsburgh drinking buddies of ours in the media and talking about a few years back in Houston, where they had a bar that weren't Dixie cups of water here. Dear God, thank God for Liberty Pure. Dr. David Chao joins us here, former team physician for the San Diego Chargers, right? Is that correct? Correct. Let's make sure. Well, physician or orthopedic, I don't know exactly what your role was.
I was a head team physician. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine. Yeah. Okay,
so make sure I get all that correct. No one breaks it down like you do online in real time. For those who are unfamiliar, tell everybody a little bit about the background of going from the field. And you just said hello to Mike Pereira, who we had on, that he sort of second guesses the officials to some degree. I don't know about second guessing doctors, but certainly trying to at least explain.
Right. Here are the mechanics. This is why it may look like a touchdown to everyone or a fumble to everyone, but why it's not, or what the outcomes might be. And he's not on the field. He's not in New York right now, but he knows how things happen. It's insider knowledge, not insider information. And so when people say, what do you do? What's this Pro Football Doc stuff? My one line, this is why this is so awesome that I'm coming in next after Mike Pereira. I say, I'm the medical Mike Pereira. That's what I say. So in some ways, there's some similarities. There are some differences, of course, too. But I'm thankful that when I first did this and I described this a couple years ago, a handful of years ago, I ran into Mike and I said, look, I hope you don't mind. I describe it as the medical Mike Pereira. And, of course, he was very gracious, and as he is. And so to this day, I still use that so people understand what it is.
Well, for you in real time on a game day, I mean, we sort of run to see what you think of an injury. You're a red zoner, right? Like when things happen, and I think sometimes you're on your phone seeing a highlight, but you get after it pretty quickly that if someone goes into a tent somewhere and it's significant, a quarterback, a key player, that people want something from you in 3 to 5 minutes, right? Literally.
Or sooner.
Right?
So I know you have video here too, but we tweet out. This was a front page New York Times article in December of 2018, literally sitting on my couch in shorts and a T-shirt. I made no bones about it. When the New York Times, and my kid's around, when the New York Times said, we want to take a picture of you for the article, I'm like, what, of me watching TV? But that's what it is. But this is what we do now with the ProFootballDoc.com service. This is exactly a year later, December 2019 this year. This is now how we watch games. There's a quote, war room with all these screens and 6 or 7 other people, and that's how we keep up with the 1 p.m. Eastern time kickoffs when there's 8, 10, 11 games.
You still out in San Diego?
I'm still out in San
Diego.
Well,
a little morning brunch on a Sunday, right?
10 a.m. game, yes, for us out in San Diego.
Well, very early for the London games, too.
Well, yeah, that I do from home. When there's one game, I try and do it from home. But when there's multiple games, you can't. And so that's how you can try and keep up and trying to do this ProFootballDoc.com service, be it for fantasy, daily fantasy, gamblers, but quite honestly, in-game. 50% of the revenue in New Jersey now is in-game after kickoff. So an example is, let's say in the playoff game, Seattle Seahawks at Philadelphia Eagles, the in-game line was -0.5, Seattle, -1 early. Carson Wentz goes in the blue tent, goes in the locker room. The in-game line moves to 3.5. I look at the thing and see what's going on, and I actually waited 10 minutes just because to give it some time in case, and then I finally said, all right, I put it out there that Carson Wentz is not coming back, and I gave my reasons. And within 3 minutes, we monitored it. The line, in-game line went to 7.5. Now, the Eagles didn't officially rule out Carson Wentz until the third quarter after halftime.
Right.
And we did this in the second quarter. So
market advantage.
That's kind of what it is. Now, admittedly, in the end, the Seahawks won by 8, so it didn't matter.
Sure.
But, to gamblers, that a 4-point middle, I mean, that's like unbelievable.
Did you
right?
know any of this when you're like working on players, that like how active the gambling market could become in that way? I mean, I guess, all the way through, injuries have affected point spreads, right? Like, and
Yes.
that's part of the secrecy of us going and asking John Harbaugh questions, right?
And respect John a lot, Coach Harbaugh a lot. Know his brother pretty well, but respect John Harbaugh a lot. But of course, he purposely doesn't tell you a lot,
Sure.
right?
Right,
That's
of
part of the
course.
deal.
Sure.
And I'm not being negative on him. He's doing his job. And it's your job, my job, to try and tell you everything that we can. And it's his job to tell you what he wants you to know for what's best for his team. And we all understand that. So it creates that dichotomy in industry. No, I had no idea gambling would be this big. I mean, I know in the last few years, people have followed the Twitter and stuff that were gamblers, but I stayed away because gambling wasn't legal.
Well,
So-
I mean, it was funny to hear Roger Goodell talk about, we're so happy to be in Vegas. Luke heard that out of the press conference the other day. And the league wanted nothing to do with any of that. Nothing for 30 years they haven't wanted
But
to
you
do.
have to understand, the popularity of football is on the precipice here of going through the roof even further. Think about this. This is just my simple analogy, and hopefully my explanations can match up to Mike Pereira's because he's so good at it. When I first started in the NFL was the biggest sport. And by the time I finished, it was bigger than all the sports combined. And what drove that? The early half of my career in the NFL, it was...
Get you time frame.
Okay, so I was like 97 through 2013. So in the early 2000s, it was all about LT.
16 years.
Yeah, 17 years. total.
17 years, okay.
If how's LT's knee? We have to beat the Raiders. This would be friends, family, patients, neighbors, or whatever.
Sure.
In the second half of my career, it's how's Gates' toe? I have in my fantasy league. Okay, so fantasy changed it. And what fantasy is season long, and if you're like lose your first 5 games, you probably don't care anymore. But DFS came along, right? Added interest. Well, DFS is game to game or day to day. In game, when gambling is legal, is a whole nother level. You can, if the Patriots are beating the Jets on Monday Night Football 37-0 going into the fourth quarter, you can lay 40 on the Patriots, get 40 points and take the Jets. The game can still be interesting. So no matter what happens in a game, a blowout game, moment to moment, every game can be interesting. Most times people watch these, let's say Monday Night Football, because either you have Jameis Winston or your opponent has Jameis Winston. Well, now if you have nothing, you get home and the game's already kicked off in the second quarter, you can decide to do something in New Jersey or those states. Or you made it home after kickoff because you came from work. The game can still be interesting. I'm not a proponent of like everyone should go gamble and you should do it legally and do it the right way, which is why I never embraced it until now it's being legalized. And I'm not a gambler myself, and we don't take bets. We're just information. And we give you information for you to make your better decisions. It's like Bloomberg, give you information to invest in your stocks. We're not buying or selling your stock for you. And that's what this injury thing is going to go. And I'm telling you, with the advent of gambling coming here, especially in-game and mobile app stuff, the NFL interest is going to rise even more. If you look in New Jersey, New York has brick and mortar gambling only. New Jersey has mobile app betting. Ask anyone there. People take the train, go across the river, make their bets, turn around and come back.
Oh, absolutely.
The bars at the first train stop are killing it because you get off, you either watch a game, make your in-game wagers, pass the geofence, or go run across, have a pop, and then go back over. I mean, that's just the way it is, the immediacy of it on your phone. And, look, every young person watches with football with a device in their hand. I mean, whether it's a laptop or an iPad or your cell phone. I mean, and you're checking your fantasy scores or your DFS or the stats or whatever. And so just that's the way it's going.
You mentioned the real time of this, and I find it fascinating how you have a life. You do surgery. I mean, you're not just sitting on your couch watching sports 24/7, but the immediacy with social media, and clearly you're focused on pro football. But I see all the time a basketball fan, a soccer fan, someone will ask you a question. It's like, well, do you have any video of it? And more often than not, they do, and then you can offer
But here's the thing. This is the deal with myself / my wife. I'm a sports fan. I used to watch a lot of different sports. Now, all I watch is every NFL game. Mm-hmm. Thursday, Sunday, all 3 games. Monday, I watch all the NFL. but as a deal to myself to stay sane, and for my 7-year-old boy-girl twins and my 2-year-old
And you get 9
daughter,
months off now to go be a doctor.
Well, not really. The next thing is the XFL wants us to cover them, and FanDuel wants us to cover the XFL, etc. But no, I don't watch other sports like regularly. Okay, did I turn on Zion for a half second? Maybe, but like I don't watch other sports.
You take the kid to see Machado play once a summer or something like that, maybe?
Yeah. So essentially what I do is I do the same amount of sports watching I used to do. It's just all NFL. But like I don't even really watch college football, but I'm at Costco on a Saturday and my phone's blowing up and Tua, and I'm like, on my cell phone, I'm like, he dislocated his hip. You can go to the Twitter timeline. I mean, I was like, wow, they're walking him off. Wow, that's aggressive. I mean, he dislocated his hip, kind of thing. It's not perfect, and it's not diagnosis, which is why I have no problem talking about, I just saw it on a cell phone, and I was at Costco. I was on my couch. Don't shoot me. I'm not examining him. I'm not pretending. So what's so funny it happens now is that in the beginning, people would say, you don't know what you're talking about, you're on your couch. And I'd have to say, well, yes, I am. And you've probably seen it, Luke, and so forth. But nowadays, when someone's new, let's say it's college basketball or something, and they go, you don't know what you're talking about, you're on your couch, why are you being such a whatever, 4-letter word, da-da-da. Other follows goes, don't you know what he do? Look at his timeline. Yeah. He's got a good track. It's like your
credibility is why you're here.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that perception because I remember seeing many unkind, unfair things that directed toward a professional who's offering an opinion, but you're not treating that athlete. But I would have to think that's gotten better over time. Although you're always
it's actually pretty good because other people see it, and then they'll jump in.
Fight the battle for you.
I mean, I fight the battle, just
sure.
Educate.
I gotcha.
I mean, I get it. You're a passionate fan / fanatic, and you say something, and then people like whatever. But I try and stay out of different things. We mentioned Zion when Zion blew out his shoe and had the blowout.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is a true story. I look at the notifications, but I wasn't even looking at my phone. I was putting kids to bed. I get a text message from an NFL beat reporter. You're trending on Twitter, and I'm like. For what? I haven't even been on Twitter. He goes, Zion Williamson. And I said, your listeners are going to laugh at me. This was when he blew out his shoe.
Who is that?
I said, who is that? And he, look at your Twitter thing. And then oh shit, this is in North Carolina Duke. And I don't even have video because I didn't record the game. And then, but online people, like 30 people sent me the video, the snippet. And I was like, that's unbelievable. I've never seen that before. But I think we correctly said it was an MCL. Mm-hmm. And people shouted me down saying, you're crazy. I said, he's going to come back for the tournament. He's going to come back for the ACC tournament based on the timeline. It's a mild MCL. And people said, you're crazy. He's not going to waste millions and millions of dollars, his NBA career on the line and the whole deal. And I came back saying, well, A, that's the injury. B, with this type of injury, I don't know Zion, but I'm sure he's a competitor. But B, if he doesn't come back, NBA GMs might say, well, are you really dedicated to the craft or are you dedicated to money? Right. I mean, this wasn't that bad of an injury. It looked horrible way
the shoe fell apart.
Yeah, it was just shocking how it happened.
And the other thing I said is, don't worry about him. A, he's still going to be the number one pick, and he's still going to get everything. And B, that shoe blowout probably made him $50 million. Can you imagine the Zion Unbreakable shoe that's still coming?
There you go. I mean, think of that.
I mean, I actually said that. There's a friend of a friend. I'm not trying to name drop. He's Pat Kilkenny. He used to be athletic director at Oregon. He's a friend of mine. He invited me to a game once, and of course, Phil Knight was right there. And I even joked about that. It was right at the time he was coming back, and we were before the game, and Phil was asking me, how's Zion doing? Because I had my phone out kind of deal. And I mentioned that Unbreakable line to him, that he's going to be great. And he just looked at me and goes, the young man's going to do just fine.
I bet he will. Dr. David Chao here. You can follow him out at the Pro Football Doc. We do. We keep an eye on him. It's great to see you. I know you don't do a ton of things here at Radio Row or whatever, and you always sort of gravitate to us. We appreciate you coming on and having some fun with us and telling us a little bit of background. And fascinating on the gambling side, right? That's not where this thing began, but online, it's become a trusted resource in that way.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's educational to me.
And this is great because this would have been, if we weren't on air, just a conversation we would have had, right? I mean, Radio Row is great. It's a purpose, but I feel like a lot of the other places, like, okay, is Tevin Coleman going to play? How's Quan Alexander?
Yeah.
And like that gets boring and dry. This is kind of fun just to chat about what goes on.
Well, the Ravens aren't here.
Right.
You know,
If you haven't
we
heard.
might have been asking about Mark Ingram's calf if the Ravens were playing.
All right, I got a
but-
question for you. Did your hotel get downgraded, or are you still in the same place that you had?
No, we're
booked?
moving to the airport. we got to move out. We got to.
After that loss, you're like
Yeah.
you were at the Four Seasons on Miami Beach.
Like
and
it,
then-
Billy Joel, I'm moving out. I think I'm moving out to Boca before it's all over with. Dr. David Chao, follow him out on Twitter, Pro Football Doc, and ProFootballDoc.com as well. Luke's here, I'm here. It's all brought to you by our friends at Liberty Pure and our friends at Sporticulture and Royal Farms. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. Ongoing coverage from Miami Beach right after this.